Justin Simien's Dear White People is a show about open dialogue and a multiplicity of views. It sends the message that nothing about issues of racism or representation is simple or one-sided, and the show embodies this argument in its form. It's broken into chapters from various characters' points of view. Point of view chapters like these are a common literary technique, used with great success in many of our favorite books. Among them, George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, The Help, Gone Girl, and A Tale of Two Cities. The Netflix show is about a group of young students of color at Winchester University, navigating a campus that isn't as progressive as it likes to believe. The series is expanded from Simien's 2014 movie, and this edition of the point of view chapters is the most distinctive and ingenious change in the adaptation, making for a far more rich and layered picture of the show's complex subjects than the film had time for. In the movie, Dear White People radio host Sam was our focus, and we got only small glimpses of the other students' inner lives. The decision to expand these chapter-by-chapter stories, filtered through the eyes of Lionel, Troy, Coco, Reggie, and Gabe, finds an artful way to express the show's key messages. That there's not one right perspective. All of these different perspectives are valid and shaped by each person's unique view and experiences, and that no one is merely what they appear to be at first glance. The experimental and innovative uses of point of view in the series, through visual techniques, chapter structure, and complex character studies, push the titular white people and all viewers to go further in opening our eyes to perspectives other than our own. There will be some spoilers for Season 1 coming up.
We paid tuition to this place! Get your guns up out of my face!
When we're first introduced to each character, we see them as types. The outspoken rebel, the awkward introvert, the superficial popular girl, the perfect student body president, the tough guy, and the white liberal. Yet by the end, each of these people develops in a way that surprises us, but which also makes sense, given their personalities and the challenges they've faced. With this character growth, the show warns us not to judge any book by its cover, or any person by a quick first impression.
Wow!
By the end, we see that Sam has more sides to her than just the bold rebel. She cares deeply about her political mission, but she also loves a guy who happens to be white, and has trouble admitting this to her friends or reconciling it with her image.
Sam, we met in the comments section of that Medium article you wrote. Don't fall in love with your oppressor, a black girl's guide to love at Winchester.
That one got so many likes.
We initially judged Lionel as too repressed and too shy to engage in Sam's style of protest, yet Lionel becomes the most confrontational protester due to reaching his boiling point, his journalistic ethics, and a confidence born of expressing his sexuality. When we're first introduced to Coco, she's seen as vain, insecure, and fixated on finding a man.
You know what they say, you can take the girl out the hood, but you cannot take the hood out of the girl.
There is nothing hood about me.
But the series expands on her past to show that the vain facade is a coping mechanism for a world that expects black women to conform to Eurocentric beauty standards.
You take the ugly one.
But still doesn't accept these women when they do. By the end of the series, we see another Coco, exemplified by her opening up and letting her natural hair show. A Coco who's fiery, driven, and knows she's smarter than the men she's trying so hard to attract.
30 years from now, when I am the second black female president, all you'll be able to do is think about me. And I won't remember your name.
Whether we agree more with Coco's or Sam's approach in the fight against racism, we come to understand and feel for why Coco acts the way she does.
Imagine the reaction if your divisive, revolutionary drivel were coming from the mouth of a real sister.
A real sister?
You get away with murder because you look more like them than I do. That's your light-skin privilege.
Troy is revealed to be a victim of an overbearing father who expects him to be Mr. Perfect, an overcorrection against damaging stereotypes and long-standing challenges facing black men.
You've got no idea what they see when they see you. You're not going to be what they all think you are. You are not going to give them that satisfaction.
What we get to see of Reggie in the film matches our first impression of him in the series, a one-note, politically driven rebel who's hopelessly in love with Sam and becomes a puppy dog around her.
Thanks, Reggie, but I only live one flight up from you. You really didn't have to walk me to my room.
But in episode 5, directed by Moonlight's Barry Jenkins, his traumatic experience at gunpoint at the party powerfully transforms Reggie in our eyes by making us feel just how alienating and heartbreaking this would be.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For some of us, maybe. There's nothing self-evident about it.
As we realize that Reggie has been shaped by other experiences like this one, we come to understand why he's developed this hard, tough exterior as a defense mechanism, and that underneath he hides a smart, kind, sensitive inner self. Gabe, who calls the police on Reggie, also undergoes a drastic perspective shift as he comes to understand the consequences of that action. The only white person to get a solo episode from his point of view, Gabe is a stand-in for white viewers of the show who consider themselves progressive, but privately might not see eye to eye with Sam on everything.
You know what? Sometimes people get what they have because they earned it. Just because I happen to be a white male doesn't automatically mean I'm some asshole.
Fucking white people.
Gabe seems to be a different, more woke type of white person than the white people Sam's radio show or the TV series itself is addressing in its title. But the reveal that he called the cops tells us that someone like Gabe very much needs to think more deeply about these problems, to consider what his white privilege means. It doesn't occur to him when he makes the call that the police wouldn't be an ally, putting student safety first. And this assumption reveals the wide gulf between his experience and Reggie's. Gabe's misstep reminds us that Dear White People is speaking to all of us, however enlightened or politically correct we might consider ourselves to be. It's pushing us to really step inside someone else's point of view, empathize, and acknowledge that the problem of racism is far more deeply entrenched in our institutions and our individual mindsets than most of us can fathom.
The writers of this program are depending on my ethnic but non-threatening voice to explain things they are too lazy to set up traditionally.
Pairing its playful narration with an uptight classical soundtrack, Dear White People satirizes the absurdity of the fact that racism is still so prevalent today in our most civilized, upstanding environments. Meanwhile, Dear White People pushes us to enter other perspectives through its visuals. The narrator and the neatly composed, stylized look of many shots give us a sense of reading a storybook, or visualizing that idyllic storybook. These visuals are pleasing to the eye and offer some fun to alleviate the serious issues of the show with some comedy, but thematically what they're really doing is constantly revealing the distance between these perfect outer images and how the people within the world are often made to feel inferior or excluded. In both the film and the series, we also get a visual motif of a group of people looking straight at the camera with a picture frame design overlaid on the image. This visually stresses how Winchester is obsessed with keeping up appearances. For example, showing off black students in campus brochures to evidence diversity. We see this picture frame at the beginning of Troy's episode when he's running for student body president. The technique reinforces the disconnect between how perfect Winchester looks on the outside and what life is really like there. The cinematography uses direct-to-camera addresses to immerse us in POV, like in this montage of microaggressions that Sam faces every day as a mixed-race woman. One person even asks her,
"What are you?"
These direct addresses show, rather than tell us, what kind of obstacles minorities face even on the day-to-day level. We enter into Sam's eyes to feel what she feels constantly. The direct-to-camera address is also meant to confront us and make us feel involved in this conversation, reminding us that we can't just be passive observers. The film uses this technique when the group all go to a Tyler Perry movie and criticize it, and the series recreates this scene. We feel that the group is speaking to us directly, but comedy plays into it when it's revealed that their angry rant is to a clueless box office employee. This reveal, and the direct addresses in general, poke fun at college students' tendency to argue endlessly over huge world issues with a high level of fire and self-importance. And the university setting is key to making this kind of discussion believable in the show. The direct address in Dear White People can also convey emotional vulnerability, as when Lionel directly tells Troy he's gay into the camera, a moment which is really directed to us since Troy's not in the room. This moment is strengthened by his intense stare, unguarded body language, and openness. We get another powerful shot in the final episode when the group is watching TV together. Their attention is focused right at the camera, almost as a cue to us to really look at their faces and absorb their stories. This is particularly powerful because we see almost the entirety of the cast from a high angle, making them vulnerable and exposed to us, letting us enter into their private worlds and sympathize with each individual. In key emotional moments, the show uses slow, subtle tracks in. The dolly into Sam's face as she dramatically names the unarmed black men who have died at the hands of police forces viewers to remember their names, acknowledging their humanity and significance. And it captures her internal, emotional declaration that she's not going to sit idly by as this continues to happen. We get another effective dolly in when Reggie refuses to open the door to Sam after the party incident. In this scene, we see Reggie at his most vulnerable, and while Sam is is shut out by the door in this moment, we're allowed to enter into what he's feeling and see this innermost hidden layer of Reggie. Dear White People, like its title, is intentionally confrontational and on the nose. Taking advantage of its university setting, the show wants to exhaustively debate the nuances of why racism still persists, how it manifests in endless ways we're not even aware of, and how many of our own prejudices we can't see. The best way to make progress in this conversation, as the show illustrates in its form and content, is to open our eyes to different points of view.
Dear White People, dating a black guy to piss off your parents doesn't make you down. It makes you an asshole. Dear White People, no, you cannot take me home to meet your parents for Thanksgiving. If you need a prop to prove how cultured you've become, get a handbag.